good single decision that you've made, Becky, that you made that changed the trajectory of your life?
So when my children were little, I was lucky enough and grateful. I feel grateful. I got to stay home with my children for their baby and toddler years. So I feel grateful for that. I wish I had more of a career. You know, I used to be kind of embarrassed. Be like, well, I remember, you know, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. You know, I felt embarrassed by that. And that, you know, now I realize that's one of the hardest jobs.
What kind of a fucking decision did I make? And I just wasted. So it had to be paid for before I could attend the class, right? I wasted $18,000. And I was like, God, what am I doing? And he goes, your work is just beginning. So it was.
I just got shivers.
Yes.
I got shivers. Oh my.
It was, in hindsight, a very poor decision, a very poor investment. But with God's will and testimony for me today, it turned out okay, because he told me that my work for myself on myself was just beginning.
Right.
But it leads me to this conversation with you. I've done the work. I am still doing the work, like Katie Byron says. So I'm here to help others heal, because it's like when wounded warriors heal, they are ready to help others to heal. Hey y'all. This is Coach Rose AJ and Becky from Rebecca Loves Ribeye. Y'all, okay, so we was just warming up our vocals, and I was like, we're already live, but let's just go ahead and finish that thought process and all that good stuff. Becky's interview aired, I think, on the 11th, right? If you remember, yes. Just last week. So you guys can look back and get a full picture of her from there. And today on Carnivore Connections, what we're going to talk about is really addiction, alcohol, binge eating, and exercise. Now, all three of these things can tie into brain addiction, or addiction literally for me. Maybe Becky, you can chip in on this too. Is addiction, what I've learned, is a brain disease, meaning that, you know, we're chasing the dopamine, that we can have multiple things going on at once, or the addictive personality, or somebody that goes, oh, I love knitting today, and deep diving tomorrow, and then eating food the next day. We get caught up in these cycles of things that we really like and get obsessed with. And for me, mine started out at 3.5 with food due to childhood trauma, and it just progressed from there. And so, Becky, if you could give us what your interpretation of addiction of any kind, whether it's food, alcohol, drugs, whatever, what your definition of that is, and please introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becky. I met Rose through, she saw one of my interviews on YouTube, and I used to binge eat a lot more when I was younger, and it was a comfort thing, and it made me feel better. And I also found it to be, and I don't know if you would agree with this, a self-punishment kind of thing. Like if I was bad, if I cheated on my diet or something, I would be like, well, you're bad already. You might as well just eat what you want. And then so it would be this self-sabotaging thing. And I have done this multiple times over many years, where this is a pattern, right? I will diet, I'll lose weight, and I'll be successful. And then all of a sudden, whatever, a shadow will come over, a depression or whatever, or something bad happens. It doesn't even have to be a big tragic thing to happen, but this cloud would come over me, and I just would give up. I would just allow myself to fail. And then it would be like, I would gain weight back, and then I'd feel bad about myself. And then once again, I would beat myself up and then, do whatever diet needed to happen. And I also found like alcohol, I learned, probably from teenage years, like this is how you relax, this is how you're cool, this is how you be social, is you drink. You drink at a party, wherever, and I wasn't a big, huge drinker, but it was I would say it was a regular thing. I didn't drink when I was pregnant with my children and I didn't drink a lot when my kids were little because you have to be alert and around. Um, and
Darn
not
it.
hungover early in the morning or whatever. And so I didn't have that issue. That was probably more in my food realm. Let's see, what other thing about addiction? I used to smoke cigarettes. I never did drugs. I mean, I did smoke marijuana here and there, but I wasn't, at that time, it would just make me sleepy. So I didn't have much interest in it. And so I was always very afraid of like hard drugs, this is your brain on drugs.
The egg frying on the sidewalk. I literally believe that shit and I never touched drugs. But looking back, we were drug addicts from the beginning, just a different substance, right?
Yeah. And it's so interesting because you talk about you were very young,
Yeah.
small child. But I mean, I used to suck my thumb and I had to have this blankie. I had to have all this security. I had to feel safe somehow. My parents both worked. I had, my grandmother was my caretaker when I was very young. And we had good caretakers when my parents were working and they were both teachers. So they had the summers off and stuff. But I always needed like some kind of, like I suck my thumb. And then when I went to school, I remember like I got in trouble I would suck on my hair, which is disgusting.
Okay. It's still
Because
a
I couldn't
source of
suck my thumb
comfort.
at school. So it was very oral, I
Mhm.
guess. And then, later on when I was a teenager, smoking cigarettes, my parents didn't smoke. They weren't drinkers, but my mom was definitely an eater. I learned that's how you deal with stress. We would eat junk in front of the TV and,
Well, it's funny that you should say thumb sucking because I was a thumb sucker until maybe about 11 or 12. And I had a corner of my pillow or a blanket
yeah.
that I would twist on. And, between food, that trauma, books, just on and on and on, it's amazing how we use different things to cope and escape and survive, right?
Yeah.
And we carry all these things into adulthood and we really don't know any different, right? Whether it's big T, little t, it doesn't matter
Right.
because how you interpret it and how you magnify it, it is what it is. But
Right.
I used to always say, no, that may have happened to me, but I'm strong, I'm capable, yada, yada, yada. And the post traumatic syndrome, you know, is still carrying on in some
Yeah.
regards.
Yes.
So I want to say that with this conversation, Becky, I want to re-emphasize to you, to myself, and anybody else listening that all it takes is one single decision to change the trajectory of your life. It could be a poor decision, it could be a mediocre decision, or it can be the best decision, whether it's to leave your husband or to get a new job or not to have your children right now, but wait 3 years for the right person and circumstances, whatever it is, one decision can change the trajectory of your life, right? Would you agree with that or disagree with
I
that?
would absolutely agree with you.
So, can you look back and maybe contribute one decision that actually changed your life for a worse circumstance? Am I making sense? And then I'll share like the one decision that you made that impacted your life, but it made it become worse instead of better.
Mm. Um, there could be multiple ones.
Yeah, just whichever one you would like to share is
So
totally fine.
I'm thinking back to my teenage years and just thinking how I feel like I didn't have a lot of self-respect when it came to, I wanted male attention. I wanted, I wanted somebody to be my boyfriend. I wasn't sleeping around or doing, I wasn't promiscuous in that way. I just wanted like a true love and I just found that I didn't have enough self-respect to stand up for myself in many situations with boyfriends where I should have made a different choice. Let me put it that way.
I got you. And do you think that it was because that wasn't role modeled for you to stand up for yourself, speak up for yourself when it comes to intimate relationships? Or do you think it's because you wanted to be in company with your boyfriend that you didn't do it?
So I feel like I was there was a lot of shame around sexuality. I just understood that, there wasn't a lot of information given to me.
Yeah.
I didn't feel good about myself. I wasn't athletic. I was into theater. So, and I did dance and stuff like that, but I was always like this. I felt like I was like the chunky girl or the overweight friend or like with the pretty friend, and I'll just be like, oh, she has a good personality, And I did have boyfriends. It's not like I was like this hermit and like, but I always felt like even if I liked a good looking guy or something, I would think I'm not good enough for that person. I'm not attractive enough. I'm not whatever enough for that person. And that makes me sad when I say that now, that my young self didn't feel confident.
Yeah, but you didn't know what you didn't know at that time. But now that you do know what you know, you can carry that forward to your family or your granddaughters or whoever you come into contact with.
Yes.
I think that's why they say that with age comes wisdom, right?
Yes.
It really comes wisdom. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And one of my things that I made a decision on, because this is the addict brain talking again, looking back, it was a very poor decision, but it helped me to get out of my career field. So I wanted to be a professional coach as soon as I left corrections in 2019. This was my mind, right? My one track mind. I was going to leave corrections. I was going to take this 6-month intense course, really intense course, and then just flip a script and be ready to start accepting clients. And this was going to be my new livelihood.
Right.
Now, what I didn't realize, Becky, is that I was an addict, or I was in denial. Let's put it that way. Back in 2018, 19, 20, whatever, I was in denial. And I went to the life coach school. It was $18,000 cash, right? Cash that I paid before I left service. And I was just going to segue because I had a lot of time off that I was burning my days. So I had a lot of time off between January and April. And I thought I would be rested and prepared to take this course, da 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 da. So part of it was 6 months. So it was actually a year long. And then the second part of the tract was actually applying everything and building your business and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you that the person that ran the school, what I saw in her is what I wanted to see in myself. She was a very articulate, smart white woman, short hair, just beautiful, just beautiful. And I want to say that I listened to her podcast. I watched her. I was like, this is what I want. This is what I want. I didn't want to be white. Don't get me wrong. But with short hair,
I didn't think
blonde. No, not that. But she had the confidence and she had some of the background that I did. Like you and I are linking arms on this conversation.
Yeah.
She was overweight, but she was already well to do. She was well educated, right?
Yeah.
And she already lived in a world that I was trying to get to. But this is what happened, Becky. I got in that classroom because it was like 10 people or 10 people to a cohort, right? I I stumbled, fumbled, did everything wrong, which is my middle name. Did everything wrong. I felt out of place. What I had imagined this to be, it was not, because what I was doing was is I was still trying to transition into keto. I was still compulsively overeating. I was still binging. My brain was still hijacked.
Yeah.
And I had made that decision based on what I wanted my future to be. And I was like, okay, I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready. Nobody in that cohort looked like me. They talked different than me. And I thought 5 o'clock in the morning was going to be my prime time, but I was still coming off of 23 years of rigid structure and all that stuff. And I was like, what kind of a fucking decision did I make? And I just wasted. So it had to be paid for before I could attend the class, right? I wasted $18,000. And I was like, God, what am I doing? And he goes, your work is just beginning. So it
Ooh, I
was,
just got
yes,
shivers.
yes, yes.
I got shivers. Oh my.
It was in hindsight a very poor decision, a very poor investment. But with God's will and testimony for me today, it wasn't, it turned out okay because he told me that my work for myself on myself was just beginning. And so it's leading me 5 years now to have this conversation with you. So, yes, I'm still working on myself. Yes, that was a bad investment at that time, which if I would have waited 3 or 4 years, it might have been the perfect investment, right?
Right.
But it leads me to this conversation with you. I've done the work. I am still doing the work, like Katie Byron says. So I'm here to help others heal, because it's like when wounded warriors heal, they are ready to help others to heal. So that was my long way of sharing about a poor decision, still being a poor decision, but what I've learned from it. So, what about a good single decision that you've made in childhood or even now, Becky, that you made that changed the trajectory of your life?
Um, so when my children were little, I was lucky enough and grateful. I feel grateful. I got to stay home with my children for their baby and toddler years. So I feel grateful for that. But I had an opportunity to maybe be in a children's theater traveling group. And my husband wasn't on board with that. He didn't want to put the kids in daycare, whatever. Not that I wanted to put my kids in daycare, but it was an opportunity that I let go. And, I don't know where it would have brought me, but I would have been making money doing theater, being able to act. And I did do acting and stuff through the years, but, it was just more community stuff and not paid. And, there were times where I would teach children's acting and stuff like that. But I just feel like I wish I had more of a career. I used to be kind of embarrassed. Be like, well, I remember, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I felt embarrassed by that. And that, now I realize that's one of the hardest jobs.
Yes, it's a
Staying home with
very,
your kids.
very hard job. So, with that, and it turned out to work out miraculously for you and your family, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I, God, life is such a roller coaster ride. And my husband and I have had quite a ride. I mean, we've been married for 32 years, but it wasn't always easy, or, we almost divorced multiple times. And I won't get in all to
Yeah,
details about that, but
absolutely.
it just, I guess it's just I'm easily swayed to make other people more important than myself. Their needs are more important than me. And I know I'm still working on that. Like, I don't even realize anymore that I'm doing it. I'm becoming more aware, but it's still such an automatic thing where, like, oh, well, it's more important what this person, like, my husband was the moneymaker, so it's more important that we take care of all his things, because we need to take care of our, pay our mortgage and,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So that was always like the priority. But I just feel like that's probably been a pattern in my life where being a people pleaser, always saying yes. I don't do that anymore. So I've progressed, I've evolved. I don't have a problem saying no if I don't want to do something now. But I used to just want people to like me. I had a hard time except, like, why don't you like me?
Oh,
Like, I know now, like, I'm not
yeah.
everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. Like, and I need to be good with that.
So where do you think that stems from? Like, do you think being a people pleaser or not like standing up toe to toe, face to face, confronting or presenting what your case would be on why you don't want to go with something, do you think that that's harder than going along with, whatever the situation is?
Intellectually, I understand that that's not true.
Yeah.
But in my body,
Yeah.
at those times where I have a choice to confront the other person or stand up for myself or whatever the case may be, the fear can overwhelm me, and it feels safer in my body to not speak out or do something. And that, I feel like that has been for me part of my addiction problem, because I'm shutting my authentic self off. And so to shut that thought process down, it's either, the food, shove those emotions down, or the alcohol to just numb yourself, or whatever you use. I mean, food can numb you too. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but
It's all good, girl.
I know I'm like, woo, I just went.
Well, that's why I like having these kind of conversations, because although I'm a coach and I am naturally inquisitive, right? I'm very inquisitive to the point of being obsessively inquisitive, right? It's like I'm okay with asking people things. I'm okay receiving it and trying to decipher it. But when that same question is flipped on me, I have a tendency to do it at a high level bullet point, right? Instead of going deep, because I totally get what you're saying, that it's easier to stuff feelings down. But what I also say is that I used to be a fighter. Oh, when I say I was a fighter verbally, like da 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 da, all that stuff. But somewhere in my marriage, I kind of said, well, I have to pick my battles because I am a Black superwoman, right? This is my brainwashing. I do want to stay home with my daughter, but I still got to work 40 hours a week. So I had to manage going back to school, being home with her, working on the weekends, and carrying my weight, right? Because we were poor. Back in the day, we were poor, so we had to hustle.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to give care and control of my daughter over to someone else, because I didn't want her to be abused or exposed to circumstances that I was, right?
I hear you.
So I went into being 20, 25, raising a child and telling my husband that I can do this shit on my own. So just get it correct, right? So we managed,
Mm.
but even with me speaking out and thinking that I could do it all on my own, I wasn't really managing because I was using food, because I was obsessed with eating out, because I was obsessed with exercise, and for a certain
Mhm.
part alcohol. So I stopped speaking out and I used food more and more and more and
To
just
shut
coped,
to shut
right?
it down. Yeah. Yes.
And so when I started speaking out again and fighting verbally, like, so that's why corrections was really good for me because I was like, I ain't taking no shit. But as far as my personal relationships and my home life, I had to weigh the battle. But when I started speaking out and just becoming emotionally detached with my
Mhm.
relationship with my husband, and like, we just got to be about the business at hand, I was like, I got to let go of this superwoman cape. So that was the best decision I made about 20 something years ago, 25 years ago, and just acknowledge to myself that I cannot do it all and I refuse to do it all. Right. But that was a breaking point. And then I had to start all over and figuring things out for myself. So that was a very good cognizant decision that I made. But then it was hell for 25 years thereafter. But I'm getting it together now, right?
That's all that matters. I say.
Yes. So let's talk about alcohol for a little bit. You
Mhm.
mentioned that experimented or sipped when you were in high school.
Mhm.
Alcohol was never a jam for me until about 18. I don't know if you know Mad Dog 2020 and Thunderbird and stuff like that.
Yes.
So we are going back, right? So those were my first exposures to alcohol, but alcohol never turned my brain, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was just like, whatever. If
Yeah.
anything,
Me
it made
either
me
when I
more
was younger.
depressed.
When I was younger, it didn't.
Mhm. So when did, if you want to share, it become a thing for you? If there ever was a stretch of time that it became a thing for you?
When let's see. I would say I my drinking got more intense after my daughter's trauma, and I didn't I noticed that I was definitely drinking more, and I was drinking at home where before it would just be like when we go out, right? Or I would just, maybe have a glass of wine, holidays and stuff like that. It wasn't or it would be the weekends or whatever. And then it started to become like an everyday, I need to have a glass of wine so I can sleep or whatever my excuse was, because I didn't want to feel what was happening. Everything seemed to be in chaos. And I didn't know how to deal with I would be in the trauma with my daughter. So I couldn't help her because I was in it with her and I was being reactive to everything instead of, calming my own nervous system so then I could be present for her. So I didn't have these tools yet. And later on, like I said in our past interview, that I went through this trauma program wanting to help other people, and also learning that I needed to be healed too, which was huge eye opening and awareness, and really saved my relationship with my daughter, because then I could be um, calmer. And, if she was having a stressful moment, I could be I could be an observer and not be in it with her, because that's not helpful.
Right,
I don't know if
right.
I'm making sense, but
Yeah, absolutely. As a friend, as a, spouse or as a coach or whatever role I'm in with the person that I'm in, I do understand that you cannot be in the pool with the person,
right.
because if you imagine a beach ball, and you're pressing it down underwater, it takes a lot to stay in the water to keep that beach ball down. Is it the beach ball? Yeah, the beach ball
Yes.
down, right? So you don't want to be that person with the beach ball holding it down or supporting the person in that way. You cannot be in the pool. You may have
Right.
to be on the side of the pool, but you can't be in the pool with the beach ball and the person,
Right. Because
right?
it's theirs. It's
Yes.
theirs to
Yeah.
heal. We're
Yeah.
not, we're not, it's not our responsibility to heal them, the other
Right.
person.
Right.
We can be supportive and
Mm.
coach
And
or, give advice if that's what's needed, if they are open to that. But that was always hard, to accept that I can't save the world. I can't save everybody, but I can control myself. I
yeah.
can be in control. And therefore, if I can be present and control myself, then I can be more emotionally available to the other person.
And even with that emotional availability, Becky, or being present as much as you can, we're not to say, or it's not to be said that you aren't being re-traumatized by experiences that you may have had, but you're sounding like you're aware that you just need to be present and keep your things on the back burner just for the moment. So if you are available to someone that's going through stress, whether it's your daughter, your friend, or whomever that you're in contact with, how do you handle your feelings or issues or trauma that may have come up during that half-hour conversation or 2-day interaction with that person, and you're trying to take care of yourself in the aftermath? How do you normally handle something like that if you're not turning to food?
Right. So now I have some tools. So before if I'm present enough, because I'm not always, but if I'm present enough, I can notice what's going on in my body. And before I speak or do anything, I can just breathe into my body and notice what's going on with me and what's coming up. Um, I'll give you an example of one point I was driving and a song came on and just triggered all the stuff that had happened with my daughter. Even though it wasn't happening then, my body started to react like it was current time. And I was able to be like, it's not happening now. Everybody's safe. Everybody's fine. And I reminded myself that I was safe, that everybody else was safe. And I just allowed myself to breathe, and I was able to not go into that whole story.
Yeah.
So when I
Yeah.
can catch it,
It's
it works.
okay. That is so awesome that you caught it and you verbalized did you say it out
Oh,
loud
out
or
loud.
did you?
Yes, I
Amen,
was driving
sister.
by myself and
Yes.
I was like, put my hand on
Mhm.
my heart and I
Yes.
was like, nope,
Yeah.
it's not true. It's not happening
Yeah.
now. It's like, because
Yeah.
if that thought
Mhm.
comes in and you can just go down that whole
Yeah.
storyline.
And it'll consume you. It'll
Yes,
consume you.
it can
And
bring you
then
right
I
back.
always say that we can change our stories at any point that we choose to,
Yes,
right?
we can,
So
but
we
it's
can
a tool, right?
yeah. So we can extract the facts that we choose to have from our past, bring them with us to our present, and create our future. So the stories that we told ourselves, like I'm a diet failure or, this 50 pounds or whatever it is, those stories that we told ourselves, we can erase those and create a new story from any point in our lives. So I'm glad that you were able to hone in the specific time frame that you started using alcohol a little bit more. So, was it for a stretch of time that you were imbibing on a daily basis with a glass of wine, or
Yes,
was it for
it
years
was.
on end?
I would say it was probably years. I mean, I wasn't like falling down drunk, vomiting. It wasn't that, but it was definitely a crutch that I
Mhm.
was using. And I was aware of it, but I kind of was like, well, you're going through a hard time, whatever excuse I had. And then I think it was, so my daughter's trauma happened in 2007. I started, I found out about kickboxing and I started doing that in 2009. And they had this you could do this weight loss program with the exercise. They called it The Biggest Loser, which we all know doesn't work in the long run now. But so I was doing that and I was like, I was getting my confidence back because I was never a physical fighter. I never got in fights like that. But it was great to be able to punch the pads, punch the thing. And I did end up and I was 43 at the time when I started kickboxing. And I ended up going into the ring just for exhibition things. So that was cool.
Right
Never thought I would
on.
do that. And then
Mhm.
I became a trainer and I got to teach. And I did that for, let's see, I guess I was a trainer, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years. And then that whole thing got a little cult-like because it was this whole group and so I had to get out of that. I had to extract out of that.
How did you know that it was time for you to go on to something different or to pivot to something different?
I got to a point where it wasn't fun anymore. I felt like I had this place had to be my all-consuming, every moment had to be at every event, and I just was like, I'm not interested in that. I wasn't getting really compensated well for what I was doing, and it was taking its toll on my body as well. I wasn't stretching correctly, and I stopped losing weight, because I think my body just got used to it, and I wasn't eating the right way, right? I was still
Right.
doing the low fat and, or not. Wasn't
Okay,
eating whatever I
okay.
wanted.
Remember those low fat days. Oh my goodness.
So horrible.
Horrendous.
So it makes me crazy to
Yeah.
think about now.
So I can track my specific time frame around when I started using alcohol as pure entertainment, as a comforter. It was really up there with food, except of course food is legal, right?
Mm.
So I went into corrections in 97. We bought our house in 99. And from 99 or shortly before we bought our house, all the way up until about 2002, I was a weekend drinker,
Mm.
meaning my weekend days were in the middle of the week,
Oh,
back then because of
yeah.
seniority and stuff. So I would drink on my Friday and my Saturday, but never my Sunday going into my Monday
Yes.
because I worked with inmates and I understood that the crimes or things that they did, it was a compulsion. I understood intellectually that this was their lifestyle, but I also understood that there was a lot of similarities, that this was my lifestyle. The only thing is that what I'm doing is legal, right? What I'm
Right.
doing is legal.
Yes.
But during that time frame, I had to learn how to pay a mortgage. I had to learn how to shuttle my daughter to her programs.
Yeah.
We had a dog. It was just on and on and on, and I wasn't sleeping, right? So my weekend binges were weekend binges, right?
Yeah.
And so by 2002 or so, I realized that I had taken my daughter with me on Thanksgiving, Becky, and I'm not saying this to say that although I tried to be a perfect mother, that this was the point of reckoning and I was still a perfect mother after it, because I was absent a lot mentally. I
I
was there
understand.
physically,
Yes.
right? So I took her with me to a state liquor store when she was 12. And this was around 2000, just after 2000. And we were at the Lakewood Town Center, and I remember it like yesterday because there was this specific Bordeaux wine that I would drink a bottle on Friday, a bottle on my Saturday. Very specific Bordeaux wine. I wasn't into hard alcohol. So she was 12, pulled up to the store, my intent was to leave her in the car, come back after a few minutes, but it was Thanksgiving. So Becky, I ran up to the door. The door was they weren't closed. I mean, they weren't open. I'm sorry, they weren't open. I jumped back in the car across the parking lot in the town center. It was Safeway. So I get back in the car. This is what I say with my 12-year-old sitting in the back seat. Shit, they're not open, but Safeway is open, so I can go over there and find something. I looked in the rear view mirror. It gives me chills now. I looked in the rear view mirror and just saw her. I clearly saw her. And I go, what kind of an example am I setting for her? So at that particular moment, I still went and got my alcohol. Don't get me wrong. I still went and got the alcohol. But I made a decision, Becky. It cannot be alcohol and food. I'm choosing food over alcohol, and then slowly tapered that away. But even recounting that, I look back with so much guilt as to what I was role modeling and how I was traumatizing her. And her father was an alcohol or is an alcoholic also, but he stopped drinking supposedly like 9 years ago or so. But that's another story we can talk about in relationships in our closed groups. But I didn't realize that my husband was an alcoholic also. This is the truth, because I wore my addictions on my sleeve. I wore it out loud, and I thought that that's the way he was operating in transparency. But because I thought I was wearing my addictions out loud, that he was too. But that wasn't. And I was so caught up in my own world that now looking back, it all makes sense, right? With a clear head. Yeah, it makes sense. But I really struggled with giving up alcohol on the weekends because, your body knows, oh, it's on a rhythm. Oh, it's Friday. Let's do this, girl. Oh, there's that restaurant. It's Tuesday night. Let's do this, girl. Your body knows. It was one of the hardest things, but I had so many other addictions that the food ramped up, right? It ramped up.
Yeah.
And then that kind of receded, and I would only drink like a 6-pack of beer, or like if I was doing long training runs, or if me and my friends went out to celebrate our, marathon or something like that. So it would be in limited social settings, but I would drink a lot, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most addictions are hard to overcome, but so long as we understand that we are prone to develop a preference to certain things, I believe that we can put them in remission. So I stopped drinking socially in any capacity in 2018. In October 2018, I just cut it off.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you at with alcohol today, if you want to share, or if you even consume it?
I'm still drinking. I'm not drinking a lot because honestly, I've noticed the older I've gotten, the less I can tolerate, which is a good thing. So when I drink, I don't drink a lot because it hits me. Well, especially being on carnivore, there's no carbs to absorb all that booze, right? So I can't, and I just feel like crap if I do that. So I'm more aware, like 2 drinks, that's plenty. Like that's plenty for me now. I know that. I do want to get to a point where I don't drink at all and I don't think about it and I don't think that it's going to make me a boring person, or what am I going to do socially? Like these are the stories that come up in my mind. And I know I've been to a bar and not drank and it was fine. I can still be social. I don't have to be drinking an alcoholic beverage. Nobody needs to know that what I'm drinking, and for me, like I feel like I'm in that process where like I'm gearing myself up to make that clear cut choice where I just stop. I'm not there yet. I know that. And I'm being honest because it's definitely, I have to get right in my mind completely. So I'm hoping, this is my hope, and I need to probably make it more concrete. I'm hoping like um, start of September, like get through the summer, not necessarily go on a binge and drink like a maniac or anything like that, but like to have a date, like September's a good, it's like a beginning, it's the fall, it's like going back to school kind of stuff.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see. I need to do a lot of things.
So, well, speaking of that, and thank you for sharing that because it sounds like you're giving a lot of thought to that. And I would almost say that my black coffee intake is up there with how you're thinking about your alcohol, right? So,
Mhm.
I plan, me and my granddaughters are going to Hawaii for 6 days in August.
Oh,
We'll
nice.
get back on August 6th. And this is how I'm planning on doing with coffee because I've done away at different stretches with coffee, but I always come back to it because it's like, well, I've given up everything. Why not? You know what I mean? But it's kind of like it's not necessarily for a detox. I just want to eventually get rid of it for good, not for 30 days, not for 60 days, because it is an expense too, to be quite honest. It's
Yes, and
the
it's
way
also
I
a
drink it.
plant. Like,
It's
that's in my
yeah,
head too, like,
yeah,
what will be my healing if I actually stop
yeah.
drinking and drinking coffee?
So with the coffee thing for me, so August 6th is my goal date. I'm not going to have any more via package, the instant packages from
Mhm.
Starbucks. Those will be all out of the house by August 6th. I need some level of caffeine to have patience and enjoyment with my lovelies.
Yes.
And I don't go back to work, Becky, until August 27th. That's the first date that we report to school. And we'll have 7 days without the students. So I've thought this out. So I'm going to be 21 days without coffee before I report to work. So I'll go through the withdrawals, the crankiness, whatever I'm going through. And then I'll have a week of adjusting to co-colleagues and whatnot. And then the students will be there. So I should be 30 days in. And then I'm also going into the group, the Carnivore coaching group, the Carnivore Connections coaching group that starts on the 8th of September because I'm like, well, I need to be working on myself in the same way that ladies that are going to be coming to this group and being onboarded and are sharing for 90
Yes.
days. This is a real struggle for me, and it has been forever and a day, and sleep. So, those are the two things that I'm going to step into the group with and be very transparent at least until the Monday before Thanksgiving when the group ends. So, whatever people are working on, I want them to know whether it's to transition to carnivore or to cut out that one junk food or to quit vaping, whatever it is, that if they hold on, there's other people in the group that are struggling right along with them. Even seasoned carnivores, we're still struggling with some things.
Yeah.
So, I'm just sharing very transparently. That's my game plan and I'm going to stick to it because I want to be locking arms with people that want to warrior on and get over whatever they're trying to get over, right? And put it in
Right.
remission.
Right.
I talk a lot, girl. Is there anything you want to contribute to alcohol or transitioning out of it or anything at all?
I guess the biggest help for me in this whole food, diet, exercise, binging shit is forgiving myself if I'm not perfect, because I used to spend so much time beating myself up and punishing myself with more food, with whatever more addictive things. And I would actually make myself sick doing that. Um, I've learned to forgive myself and just move on and just keep doing the thing that I know makes me feel better. It helps that I have a schedule of exercise that keeps me not going off the rails with addictive things. So,
Yeah.
um,
So
forgiveness, I guess, self forgiveness,
self-forgiveness. Okay. Okay. And you're so or self-compassion.
self compassion. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a better word.
Yeah. So self-compassion, you know, it's hard. It's hard because we can be our own best friends or our own worst enemies, right? On
Yeah.
certain things. And leveling up is hard to do. It's really hard to do. And I think sometimes going back to, we still have as yet to talk about binge eating, but going back to cycles of compulsive and binge eating, like you had mentioned, oh, I messed up, whatever the messing up is, whether
Right.
it's eating 5 more cookies or whatever. I'm just going to keep eating today and start over tomorrow at
Yeah. Oh, it's
11:59
Monday.
tonight
Monday
when the
diet.
clock, yes, it switches over. I did that so well for so long, for so
Yeah.
often.
Yep.
But what I also didn't realize with the binge eating was the food that I was putting in my mouth was causing me to keep binging.
Yeah.
You
We
know what
were
I'm
we were
saying?
poisoning ourselves. We didn't know it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was like literally changing our chemistry in our body. That's a
Yeah.
whole nother.
Yeah. And then with that transparency is I felt like a fucking shit show, Becky. I don't know about you, but I'm like, how come Sally Sue with the blonde hair, who's just as tall as I am, she fucking weighs 80 pounds
I
less than
know.
I do, but I've got the hips, the butt, and this, which I'm okay with. But if I were 80 pounds less, I would be, a prima donna like her. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Well,
I
we're
know.
not genetically built the same, Rose, but I still wanted what she had.
Yeah.
And then God forbid, what is that? Shakeology. What is that called? Do you know that?
Oh, yes.
What is the oh
Beach body.
beach body?
Yeah.
Okay, so I went on
Did
beach
that
body
for a
like
moment.
8 times, like 8 times, 8 times repetitiously because I wanted to be a coach, sell the products. These little fucking containers. I'm like, bitch, let me fill that up 6 times and then that's one serving. I mean, I did it all. We talked about Susan Powder. I talked about X-Lax, Dexatrim,
Oh my gosh.
Diet Tab. Just eat crackers and a can of green beans and don't eat for 6 days. I mean, I did it
Oh
all.
my God. I have to
Visalis,
tell you, do you remember you were talking about that lady with the fat free back in the day?
yeah, Susan Powder.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I remember eating plain rice and cooked kidney beans
That
because it didn't
sounds
have any fat
horrid.
in it.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
that's
girl, I'm trying to do this chat and talk. It ain't gonna, um, but let me put that up there. But anyway, so yeah, just multiple diets. And the thing is I didn't get it. What is the other one? Slim Fast, Jenny Craig,
Oh yeah, I did.
Weight Watchers, all these things. I just didn't get it. I thought that I was doing everything wrong. All these people have success, but I didn't. I have success in my career, paying my mortgage, raising my family, things that I thought I was successful in.
Yeah.
But I was being overloaded and obsessed because I wasn't successful with weight loss. Now, mind you, I was on the Today Show twice with Joy Bauer.
I
And
just saw that like a couple days ago. I was like, what?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But even with that, I was obsessed during that area. I was obsessed. I kept binging, counting calories, exercising compulsively, the whole nine. So every diet known to mankind, I was doing.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Is
do.
there a diet that you didn't do that you thought about doing and that you're glad you didn't do?
Oh my God. There were so many. What was the weird one? There was so many weird ones where you just ate like celery or something. The celery
Mhm,
juice one, I never did that one. Um,
mhm.
I don't know. There were weird ones
Yeah.
where you would just eat one thing. I mean, I don't know. I didn't like to suffer.
You know, but you know what? Even with the suffering, I thought I was doing really good. Like, look at me. Look at
Yeah.
me.
You
Go
know what? I would
you.
get this weird feeling of control.
Mhm.
This weird,
Mhm.
like, I am in
Mhm.
control. Look at
Mhm.
me. So I can see like how anorexics would be. That's how they get their high,
Yeah. Yeah.
is like that feeling of starvation or whatever, where you're
Mhm.
like, well, I'm in control of this. I have this.
When I talk to people that have eating disordered eating, it's all one and the same, but how it plays out is different, right? So
Yeah.
you and I might have wanted to stuff our feelings down, not feel anything, be in
Yeah.
control, whatever it is. I think the anorexic or the bulimic or somebody that's in that persuasion is doing the same thing, that they feel a loss of control or they want to be in control
Right.
or they don't want to feel what they're feeling, right? So I can tell you right now, I tried to throw up back in the day, very young at 12 or 13. That shit wasn't gonna work for me.
No, I
Okay.
don't like to throw.
And then
I was
and
like, I
then
can't even
not
be bulimic.
and then not even eating. That was not even a part of the equation. Okay.
No.
I'm like, I can starve myself, but as long as I know food is coming, I'm okay. so, so I think we're all destined to be some kind of disordered eating or eating disorder, depending on our personalities and our environments that we grew up in or how they played out.
Yes.
Would you agree or disagree with that?
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And me being jealous of people because they were able to stick to it, they just weren't being vocal that it was hard for them to stick to it. Right.
Yeah.
And they come out 5 years later, like that was the worst thing that I ever did.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. 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 So I just want to repeat one thing, that
Yes.
addiction is a brain disease. It can play out with exercise, like in outlets in your home. There's multiple outlets, but one source, which is the electricity or the power, right? So for Becky, yours played out. Do you want to, kind of recap for us some obsessive tendencies or compulsions or addictions that you had?
I used to be a completion eater. You just made me remember, like when I was younger, I would have to, if something was in the cupboard, I would eat some of it, and then it would, people thought, oh, it was calling me from the fridge, or it was like I would have to finish that food, maybe a thing of ice cream or a sleeve of cookies or whatever it was. I would eventually have to finish it so I wouldn't worry about it anymore. That was my fucked up thinking about, well, if I just eat it all, it'll be gone, and then I won't have to worry about it.
And that's what they always say, like, if something is in the home or even in your car or wherever, if a person is a smoker, if a person is a drug addict, if a person is an alcoholic, if a person is addicted to carbs, they know where to go. They can smell it like an animal. They can sniff it out. So for me, anything that was here in my home that I couldn't have, I will not stop until it is gone.
Yes.
I will not stop.
I don't buy ice cream anymore.
Right? So even with my husband, I'm like, look, dude, whatever you do, you're a grown ass man, but this is the way I need to stay healed in my home. I cannot see it.
Yep.
I cannot smell it. I cannot breathe it because I will hone in on it. Like I'd buy him like nuts and stuff like that. And I'd buy myself the same. I'd buy him 4 packs. I'd buy myself 10 packs. Let's be real. I'd eat the 10 packs in one sitting. Then I would zero in on his. And I would say, look, dude, can I just have them? Eat 14, 15 packs in one sitting because my brain works like that, right?
Right. Right.
With my granddaughters coming over, I feed them ketogenically, meaning that I'm not stimulated or obsessing about anything that I purchase for them, right? So I have to be very on target. And my answer to everything out in the world is no. It's not my food.
Yeah.
So for me, it was exercise, it was different hairstyles, constant hairstyles, it was alcohol, it was shopping, it was all these things, so I could say that I had maybe 10 things going at once. A couple would recede in the background, but as soon as I got bored with that, another one would creep forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all good.
Rebecca Loves Ribeye. I basically started that it's easier for me than YouTube because like I said, I'm not good with technology. But I basically started that to just kind of have fun with being on the carnivore diet and maybe having a little more accountability. I'm not, like I said, there was some woman who was on Instagram. I can't think of her name right now. she just came up in my feed recently, and she was just talking about how like nobody does a carnivore diet to get popular, to get likes and follows, because it's hard and people are like, why are you doing that crazy diet? You know, you're gonna die with a heart attack or whatever people like to say, or you don't eat vegetables, how do you poop? You know,
Easy. Becky can be found at Rebecca Loves Ribeye on both YouTube as well as Instagram. And you guys, I'm roseajcoates on Instagram and YouTube. So let me give you a little thing. This Google Forms that's in the comments, this is for people that want to join the Carnivore Connection group. It's for women that are 50 years old and older, that are just sick and tired of being sick and tired, that want to try the carnivore way of life, or that are trying to transition in. And if you've gleaned anything from this conversation here today with me and Becky, this is how the coaching protocol is going to go. So you'll have literature, you'll have support from other people. Although I'm the one that's hosting this, it doesn't mean that my voice is the only voice you're going to hear, because I want others to contribute. I want other people to share their experiences, because I do believe that we learn in community better than in isolation. And so it's going to be a great ride. It's $45 for 12 weeks of actual coaching, Monday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it is a test group. And when I say test group, it's just you guys giving me feedback, me trying out different coaching protocols to see what's actually going to work to support you guys. Then I'm going to synthesize all the information, all the interviews, whatever I'm doing in the month of December, and then January roll out with a monthly subscription. But I want it to be the best one on the block. And I'm asking you guys to join in and help. If you can't do it for yourself, maybe you can pass this information on to other people. And Becky's going to be in there and be one of my ride or dies. Whether it's 6 of us or 6 million of us, we're going to rock this world, because women over 50, we've still got it going on. Right?
yes.
All right. So thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for again having me on, and I'm excited for your group, and I'm so grateful to know you, and I can't wait to learn more about you. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Let's lean to the side. So guys, we have on the same shirt. We're twinning today.
Twinning!
Yes. So do you want to tell them where you got your shirt, and I'll tell them where I got mine?
Yeah, I got my shirt. Guy I follow on Instagram, JT Carnivore. So you can go check him out, or
go to Amazon. So what I did was I checked out JT's website, knew that I wanted the shirt, but I didn't want to pay for shipping. So I said, let me go over to Amazon, and they have them on Amazon, and the prices are the same. So if you're a Prime member, obviously you'll get free shipping. So that's what I did. And I do believe it's the same exact shirt by the same exact supplier or distributor.
It looks exactly the same.
Yes. All right, love. I love you to the core. I will be in touch.
Thank you so much, Rose.
All right, bye-bye. And I love.